Hey Daniela, thanks for submitting your assignment. Let's take a look. I think you made some really nice progress in this. I really like it. I really see it's improved a lot. So I appreciate the work you've done. And it's looking pretty good. But there's a couple things I want to talk about, but I'm starting to get into like little nitpicky things. It's starting overall to like, yeah, great stuff, great work. All right, so I'll take a look mostly from this view. I think the stuff from your camera view is looking pretty good. I'll take a look at the camera view too, but I'll start here. All right, so things feel a lot more solid, a lot more locked down. Like I see the feet feel like they're more not like squirming around and stuff. And I also feel like the weight, like there's clearly the character's weight is on one foot and then the other foot. So it's all looking awesome. So again, great stuff. Small notes. One of the things that I think won't be too difficult to clean up is I feel like this foot, let me get my pencil. All right, there we go. I feel like this foot here in this move feels like it kind of slides or translates, right? I see on the reference what's happening. She kind of picks her foot up, and she doesn't pick it up off the ground much. So I think there's like two things. There's one of two ways you could go about maybe working on this to make it feel like that foot doesn't slide. The first way is just to make it like pivot around the toe or the ball of the foot here. So right now the ball feels like it's there, but in the previous pose it feels like it's here. So if we look at how those two positions compare, it doesn't look like much, but it actually slides over to the side, and you can see it in this view. It's there, and then it's here. So one of the things you could do is just bring this foot over from this pose, or you could bring it over from this pose, so it just pivots around the ball of the foot. If you want to reposition the foot, that's fine, but what I think you need in that case is just a tiny little indication that the foot is like kind of going up and then down in space, right? And what's happening here is like the heel goes down as the foot moves over, and that I think is working against the idea that the foot gets picked up into the air. So you might just need a little pose like with the whole foot kind of clearly being up off the ground. It's not always the easiest thing to communicate a little bit, but I think it's important to like I'm gonna draw in a shadow here, which is kind of cheating, but the idea is that you show that it kind of takes that path. It goes a little up and down, and I think what's going to help you with that is to leave the foot roll intact here, to leave it where it is, and wait on dropping that heel down to the ground until it gets kind of like into this position, and that's when the heel drops, so it'll look more like that. So one of those two ways I think is gonna help you with that foot feeling like it slides. Hopefully that's not a big deal. And then this kick is looking really nice and strong. Like there seems to be a lot of force behind it. But I think what we need, like your spacing here, is pretty extreme. So I like how forceful it feels, but I think we need to get it to feel like there's just a little bit more physics involved. So I feel like this move, you can see here how the thigh is down here, and then the thigh goes up, and then the thigh goes down. And I think more like this middle pose. I like your thought, because I think the thought is I'm gonna get that ankle to like watch the spacing on that ankle. That's nice. That's nice spacing, right? Like you're going from here to here. That's a big jump to there. So I think we need to, like, the middle pose could be maybe a little bit more of like an in-between pose, so if this is the thigh there and that's the thigh there, maybe we can try to get the thigh to be more like this, and maybe with the ankle it should be more like around here, because the ankle's going to kind of swing up into this, right? So maybe this is like the thigh, because that's sort of in between there and there, you know, but it's like smaller here and bigger here. I think that that's all great. So maybe the foot's a little bit more like something like this, you know. I see on the reference the thigh goes up a little bit higher and then comes down. So maybe we can do that towards the end, but I feel like this in-between pose, let me turn off ghosting, so let's see if it makes a little more sense. Yeah, maybe something like this. Maybe you can even bring the thigh up a little bit higher. But let's try to pay attention to this like foot arc swinging through. And then once you hit the top here, see how this ankle kind of just like locks in space here? It's like in this exact same spot for all three of these frames. So I think introduce just a tiny bit of drift, like get that foot going up just a little bit here, you know, just a little bit of like continuation. It can almost like come to a stop, but just keep it moving just a tiny bit, just to show that it still has physics and momentum and weight behind it, you know. I think that's gonna look great. That's the biggest thing I saw. All the other stuff is like really kind of nitpicky stuff, you know, like here on the kick. I think you can kind of ease into this a little bit more when I watch like the back shape, or the torso shape is another way to describe it. But if I focus just on this back edge, it kind of pops into this from being here. So if you look at where it was previously, it's very much like this, you know, it's translating this way, but it's rotation back. There's no ease into it. So maybe in this pose right here, and again, like I said, these notes are a little nitpicky, we can start to lean it back a little bit, get it like a little bit halfway between straight and leaning back, so that we're easing out of this into this, and then we can continue into this. So it's just that small little ease in there. I think too here, just with this shoulder shape, is a little awkward here. See how it's kind of like bulging out? Maybe when the arms go forward, you can rotate the clavicle control forward a little bit. You know, the clavicle being like where the shoulder attaches to the neck and the chest and stuff. And that might put the root of your shoulder here. I like how we're seeing, I know this isn't your camera view, so I'll take a look at your silhouettes in camera view, but yeah, maybe do that with both of the shoulders, because you can see, like, I kind of feel like the ball of her shoulder is here, which is rotated forward. It's not like the ball isn't like at the back, where back there. You know what I'm saying? So that might help a little bit, clean up that shape. And then the only other thing I would say, and again nitpicky, is I feel like you have this, okay, so I'm looking at your cog, this like center of gravity here. What's happening is it starts to move back, and I like this move back here. I think that that's the right thing. I feel like maybe it's just happening a little bit early. So there's a curve. You could just delay it by like 2 frames or so, so that it stays in this position and doesn't start coming back. Like here it comes back on this frame, 42. Maybe you can push that to like 44, 46. So that whole curve, I'm guessing it's going to be the TZ curve. It probably is. But you could just take the whole curve and all those like keys that you have at this point and just grab them from here forward, you know, and just move them 2 to 4 frames, so that that fallback happens a little bit slower, so this foot can get planted, and then it'll feel like she's catching her weight. Like right now, that back motion kind of stops. I mean, we have some rotation, it's still a little bit in there, but it feels like it stops before, or it starts to stop before that foot gets planted, and this foot is really the thing that's gonna catch her. Another little small thing about the foot is if she plants the toes here in space, you should keep the toe on this foot here. So I would just slide the foot back for this pose, like leave the foot the same here, but kind of have it like, have that foot, have the toe be the thing that kind of anchors that whole leg. You know what I mean? I don't think it'll change your pose as much. You can just kind of do a global adjustment on the translation. That's again probably going to be a TZ on the final pose. And then there's maybe like some little pops. This is polished stuff. There was like a little pop I saw on the arms. Yeah, maybe here is like, so you have this pose, which is nice. It's in this pose, and it like goes down and then comes back up into that pose. And there's not a lot of ease out and ease in. Like if this is your lowest pose, you don't have a lot, like the spacing to ease out of something. You're gonna have to like get a couple of things close together, and then when you start to return up, it's got to start close together and then grow in its spacing. And right now it just kind of comes down and goes right back up. So I don't know if you need that little dip in there. Maybe you want to keep that dip. If you keep that dip, maybe you don't need the come up. But if you want to keep the come up, then you have to kind of like ease in and ease out of that motion. Give yourself some more frames in there. I'm not sure what the solution is that you want to pursue, but there's a lot of options there. Yeah. Cool. It's all looking really good. I like how it's coming together. Yeah, so I'll take a look in the perspective view now. All right. Actually, I'll do it one more frame since we're in the middle of the wipe transition there. Yeah, this is cool. One of the things that's bugging, okay, so I know we have this extreme angle and stuff, but I think maybe you need to like zoom out or pull back a little bit because it's a little awkward the way like the top of the head is being cut off. Like if this character had eyes, they would be riding really close to the top of that frame. So maybe you want to zoom back so we can get the top of the head in this camera pose or whatever. And then here too, like all this business with the hands is really nice, but it's happening like up and out of frame. So maybe just like think about the composition of this a little bit and raise up the camera. If this is going to be your camera shot, I think you just need to capture a little bit more of what you've animated here, because I feel like we're losing out on a lot of the good stuff. And especially this foot here, like it's going up and out of frame. So like let's say that, I'm not sure what these guidelines are, but let's say this inner frame is your frame. I think it would be best to pull back until like the foot doesn't break the plane. So your figure is going to be much smaller. They're going to be like lower, but you know, you fit the head in. Actually, I put the head outside of the frame. So I don't know, but play with it. That's horrible. All right, but you know what I'm saying, hopefully. Like we get the foot here, we get the head here. Everything about your animation is the same. It's just we're witnessing a little bit more of it because it's more in frame. It's cool that the bottom leg gets cut off, but I think we really want to like see this foot, since that's kind of like the kick is the meat and potatoes of your piece. So yeah, just trying to get the head in there. It's okay if the hand like pokes out a little bit, because that, you know, that might feel natural, but you know, if you can zoom out a little bit, you can keep the same angle that you have. We just need to get the head and the foot, I think, in there would be. That's a lot of scribbling to describe something that's pretty simple. So, but yeah, this is all looking great. Great work, great progress. Just do what you can to finish it up and submit for next week. But yeah, I think you're really close. So great stuff, and keep up the good work. All right, hope you have a good week.